All right, I just want to get right into this. My name is Sky, and I wanted to talk about my experience with Hogwarts Legacy so far, what I think of the game overall, the pros, the cons, things I would like to maybe see added in the future, and the list goes on. So basically, probably like a lot of you, I'm in my mid 20s. I grew up watching the movies of Harry Potter. I love them. They're some of my favorite movies of all time. So whenever I figured out that this game was going to be a real thing, I was very excited for this and I was highly anticipating it. I bought the deluxe edition, got the game 3 days early, and I have grinded it heavily. I have about 30 hours into the game so far. I also have a full-time job, so I can't completely just sink into it like I'd like to. But nonetheless, I have about 30 hours in. I'm level 32. I've beat the main story quest. And I just want to give my overall thoughts because I feel like I have okay thoughts. And if it could help the state of the game and maybe if people agree with these, it'd maybe be cool to see some of these changes if this gets any traction. So without further ado, I want to get into some cons first, just kind of get them out of the way and end the video talking about all the good stuff. So this is a very kind of nitpicky one, I feel like, but I feel like if you are going to spend a lot of time in this game, I think this is actually very important, and that is the lack of enemy types. I know that it says something along the lines of, I think, 60, 67 different enemies. And while that is true to a certain degree, what they actually meant by that is there are only maybe 6 to 8, I believe, if I remember correctly anyway. I could be wrong. But I do believe there's only 6 to 8 different enemy types. But where they get you is there are variations of them. So there are variations of the spiders and the goblins and things like that. And you can use different spells to do more damage to those specific variations of those enemies, which I think is a great system, by the way. So, yeah, more enemy types visually. I think it would be great to see different styles of enemies. I'll stop there with that. Number 2, I don't think that there are enough spells in this game yet. I do think there needs to be more combat-related spells. I love to just juggle enemies and just utilize all of the types of spells that I have in my inventory and just set up different combos and things like that. It's one of my favorite parts about the game, if not my favorite part about the game. And I just think it'd be cool to have more spells to play with. I'll just keep it at that as well. This is a pretty nitpicky one. It's pretty small, but I think it's worth mentioning as well. Customization and things along these lines. So one in specific to me is wand customization. If you can customize the wand handle throughout the game, why is it that you can only pick what your actual wand looks like at the very beginning and then you're not able to change it from that point on? That was just a little observation I made. I think if you're able to reskin your gear to whatever you want it to look like, as long as you've either collected it or bought it or however it works, I think you should just be able to reskin your wand as well. I don't think it should affect any of the attributes, but yeah, I would like to see more wand customization. Again, kind of small, but I think an important thing. Unnecessary diversions in the game. And I know it's probably not intended to be labeled as such, but perfect example, I think we just saw it in the video here a couple seconds ago. I went to go pick up a piece of gear, and I couldn't pick up the piece of gear because my inventory was full, and my inventory was full because I haven't done an absolute ton of Merlin trials. Merlin trials increase your gear carrying capacity, and in my opinion, while I think they're super cool and a nice little touch in the game, I don't think there's something that you're constantly seeking out to do. And I feel like whenever you're in a position like this where you kind of just go around, explore the world, and you want to go about it your own way, nothing is more frustrating than being deep into a dungeon, opening a legendary chest, and you can't immediately collect the gear because your gear capacity is full. Because at the end of it all, you haven't done enough Merlin trials. So I would maybe like to see some sort of tweak there. Again, not saying that they're not awesome. I think they're super cool, but I would like to see maybe a little bit of a better system in play there. this is one of the last things I have to say about the cons of this game. I think something that may be a little overlooked is the talent tree in this game. I know you have 5 or 6 different talents that you can add points to overall make yourself a stronger character in specific fields. Like, I know people can play this game as like a full-blown pacifist. They can just use like plants and potions and things like that, which I think is super cool because that adds a replayability factor and things like that. But for example, the stealth talent tree only has 4 attributes that you, or 4 skills that you can pick from. I think there needs to be more there. I also think there needs to be more in the room of requirement, and so on and so forth. That's just an observation as well that I made. I'd like to see more in that department. This is the last con that I have to say right now about the game, and I think this is the biggest one, and I think I could get a lot of flack for this, but incentives. At the end of the day, what is going to incentivize me to spend a lot of time in the room of requirement brewing potions and growing plants and taking care of my animals and things like that, other than the fact that I just want to, right? And what I mean overall is I played through most of this game without using potions and without using the plants. And I think that is a very huge aspect of the game, as in spending time in your room of requirement and your vivarium and preparing for fights and dungeons and things like that. I think that's huge. But I played through the game on normal difficulty, so you can, knock me for that. But all I'm trying to say is I don't really think that you need those things to complete the game. And if they're in the game, I just want more reason to utilize it and spend more time with those certain aspects of the game, because it is super cool, and I can tell they put a shit ton of time into it. Now, with the few minutes we have left here, I want to go ahead and hop into the pros and end this on a positive note. The game is ridiculously immersive on every single level that I can think of. The audio design is some of the best I've ever heard. There is something so peaceful about flying around on your broom, hearing that wind, hearing the water, hearing ambient noise, flying over, say, the Forbidden Forest, and you're hearing fights or you're hearing spiders crawling around, things like that. Absolutely incredible. Aesthetically, visually, some of the best graphics I've ever seen, minus the bugs and things like that. It is just absolutely phenomenal to look around in this game. I've had so many moments where I just stop and gaze, and I think that is very special and something that's very hard to do. So I pay credit where it's due there, absolutely. The details in this game, kind of going hand in hand with the visuals and things like that. Just the small details, even down to the field guide pages, or going up to like a goblin encampment and you go ahead and take out a couple goblins and you look over and you just see pickaxes hovering, mining by themselves. Like, the world is very much alive. Every single corner that you look around, there is something going on. There's always something to look at, as we can see right now with watching Peeves juggle fire. Like, there's just always something going on, and I feel like that is maybe the most important thing whenever it comes to games like this, and they nailed it right on the head, and it's awesome. Very, very awesome. The combat. The combat is some of the best combat that I've ever experienced in any game I've ever played. It is so fucking satisfying to just juggle people like I'm doing right now in this clip and just style points for days. I don't know. It's some of the funnest combat I've ever experienced, and I really didn't think it was going to be as great as it is, but it's absolutely fantastic. I wish there were a few more spells to be able to play around with, but I don't doubt that some of that may come in the future. Another positive, Easter eggs. Somebody like me that's a big nerd, I love Easter eggs, and I've seen a couple Easter eggs like the Fred and George Easter egg in Hogsmeade, I believe, and things like that. I love paying that little homage to, the people that if you know sort of thing. I love those little details, and I also think that they're very important. Super cool there. customization overall in this game is absolutely fantastic, minus the little things I complain about so far. But being able to change what your gear looks like and it doesn't affect the attributes on the gear is so huge for me. I don't want to walk around looking like an absolute fool just because I want to wear good gear. So the fact that I can literally wear like a tuxedo, a hat, and glasses and still have a great gear score is pretty awesome. So I enjoy that. I would just like to see the same thing for the wand. Another thing, the main story is honestly fantastic. I do think it's a little short. I would have liked it to maybe be a little bit longer, but it's hard to say overall, I guess. It took me about 20 hours to beat the main story, and yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. I thought the arc was really cool. I thought the villains were really cool. The cutscenes were absolutely incredible. Luckily, I didn't really have any bugs whenever it came to the cutscenes. So visually and, you know, again with the audio design, those were absolutely outstanding. So overall, on that, I'm going to let you guys enjoy this fight, and that is my pros and cons for Hogwarts Legacy so far. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Accio. Expelliarmus.
How did you do that? Two little magic tricks won't distract me. I won't. Dead.
Incendio. Expelliarmus.